Dear friends, welcome to the channel The Eastern Front. Today we will talk about such a strategically significant and important product as Mahorka tobacco. At the end of the video I will tell you how the Russian soldiers responded about the Mahorka and also show how they rolled cigarettes and which of the soldiers tried not to smoke at all. Mahorka and ordinary tobacco are two different types of plants of the same genus and family. From ordinary tobacco, Mahorka differs in a thicker and heavier smoke, a much richer taste due to the increased concentration of resins and nicotine in the plant. Two different tobacco plants also have different taste in smoke. In Mahorka, it's much sharper and denser. It was not so easy to supply the front with tobacco without interruption. Very often in the fields where tobacco grew, in addition to women and teenagers, very young children worked. A lot of Mahorka was required for the soldiers, so all collective farmers were given plots of land for growing tobacco plants. The hardest time was when tobacco was blooming. Every day, women and children, tying canvas bags to themselves, took a row and walked from one end of the field to the other, picking flowers and putting them in bags under the scorching sun. By the middle of the day, from the unusual smell and thick tobacco dust clogging the nose and throat, the head began to spin, there was a pain in the eyes, nausea. From the outside it was a funny sight when small figures moved around the field and constantly sneezed. After work everyone was in a kind of half-drunk state. As former employees of tobacco factories recalled, teenagers and women worked in the workshops at that time. They had to work for 12 and sometimes for 18 hours. They slept right there in the workshop, on the heater or on a pile of Mahorka. It gave off heat, somehow warming people in an unheated workshop. The finished products were loaded onto carts, sent to the station and then to the front. Soviet fighters smoke mainly Mahorka from all sorts of Central Asian varieties of cheap tobacco. Mahorka was given out in packs as a ration and then poured by soldiers into a pouch or cigarette case. The officers were given cigarettes. During the Great Patriotic War, such a pouch was a bag made of fabric with ties, in which tobacco was stored. The fighters received them together with parcels from relatives and friends. Initials were written on the pouch, patterns and words were embroidered. By the way, there is a video on my channel where it's told how angry Soviet soldiers were when pouches, letters and other gifts fell into clutches of the German near Tikvin, and what they did on Christmas Eve with Germans. The link will appear in the right corner. However, there were also such craftsmen who made cigarette cases not for cigarettes but for tobacco. Such metal boxes were made a lot, usually using aluminum from downed aircraft. Officers most often had factory-made cigarette cases at the front. The cigarette cases were engraved with their names, drawings and inscriptions were also often added. If a fighter had neither a cigarette case nor a tobacco pouch, when the Makhorka was carried right in his pocket, tobacco has always been at the front of all wars. It was believed that it reduced hunger, and a soldier with it can travel long distance. Tobacco became an important attribute of a soldier, and sometimes the last thing he could enjoy. Tobacco was truly a strategic product that the Red Army soldiers were waiting for. Years after the war, an ordinary supply, Yelena Inevska recalled, "We will get tobacco, cigarettes, flints at the base, everything that a fighter cannot do without on the front line. And we will go on the road, where by cars, where by carts. And more often with one or two soldiers we pull on our hump. You can't ride horses to the trench. The Germans will hear a creak, all on yourself." And in those very trenches we were not just impatiently awaited. We could be said to be prayed for, since tobacco, like alcohol, allowed to somehow relieve the terrible nervous tension constantly experienced by everyone who had to stay at the forefront for a long time. In general, by who smokes what, it was possible to judge a lot about military rank, belonging to one or another kind of troops, personal connections, By the smell of tobacco smoke, it even became clear how things were on the front. If the soldiers' trenches smelled of Marshanska or Biysk shag, and the smoke of Kazbek and Belomor was drawn from the officers' dugouts, this was a sign of well-being. And if instead the smoke of the Filichev rose, made from industrial waste, scraps and inflorescences of tobacco or some other ersatz, then things were really bad. The Makhorka looked like a very much crushed tobacco. Hand-rolled cigarettes were made from this tobacco dust. A piece of paper, usually a newspaper, was taken. A tube was twisted and stuffed with tobacco. They were called hand-rolled cigarettes or goat legs. With smoking paper, fighters and junior commanders often had a bad time, as newspaper strips for self-rolled cigarettes, according to experts. The paper of the newspaper Krasnaya Zvezda was the most suitable. It was thinner and seemed to smoke better than Pravda or Izvestia. The paper of German leaflets dropped from airplanes were also used. However, such leaflets in the pocket of a Red Army soldier could lead to a penal battalion. With matches, fighters and junior commanders often had a bad time, and they were not practical in the frontline conditions. As lighters, in addition to captured German ones, a simple device was most often used. Here is how it looked in the description of one of the veterans. The frontline lighters consist of 4 parts: a tinder wick made of tightly twisted thick threads, a metal tube into which tinder is drawn, carefully protected from dampness, flint or other stone capable of giving sparks when struck, and finally a fragment of a file with a large notch or other suitable piece of iron. Matches and lighters are nothing compared to this frontline invention of resourceful soldiers. Matches are quickly consumed and glow brightly at night, and besides they easily get wet. Gasoline lighters required refueling. It's worth noting that the German army was supplied with cigarettes. Officers received better cigarettes and soldiers of poor quality. Our fighters didn't like German cigarettes, they were too light. The Germans, on the contrary, felt sick after trying our Makhorka. The Red Army soldiers even gave the prisoners a cigarette for the sake of interest, and then marveled at how they started, coughing and sneezing. From the stories of the frontline soldiers, one can judge with what love and trepidation they treated Makhorka. Biysk tobacco from Altai was especially respected in the trenches, and for Siberians it also acted as a kind of greetings from their native lands, and therefore was doubly valued. "I didn't smoke before the war," recalled a resident of Pavlovsk, a former artilleryman, Fyodor Streltsov. "But at the front, this is what happened. They brought Biysk Makhorka. All the guys said, 'Oh, Biysk shag,' and I lit it. That shag was like a native. At war, a lot of damn things. Someone will be killed or injured. Oh, I think I'll smoke." It was somehow comforting. "I learned to smoke in the army," artillery officer Dmitry Nibolsin recalled. "I smoked godlessly, a lot and often. They say smoking is harmful. Perhaps I agree with that. But in that frontline time, a smoke break was of particular importance. I smoked a cigarette. My soul felt better, as if an elixir was breathed into every cell of your body, without which it's unthinkable to relieve tension, fatigue and calm down. After lunch you need to smoke, otherwise lunch will seem incomplete. And a halt without a smoke break is not a halt. I really wanted to smoke." When there were no cigarettes or shag, they searched their pockets for tobacco dust, picked up cigarette butts, and it happened that they smoked dry leaves of plants, broke down in cough, and still smoked. Soviet soldiers highly appreciated the hard-working women and teenagers on tobacco factories. Allow me to thank all your engineering and technical staff, workers and female workers on behalf of our guards units, for the high-quality products of your factory, Makhorka. It's no secret to you that Shak in frontline life is an inseparable friend with whom you can talk and calm down. Captain Shestopalov, Foreman Khmelov, and Junior Sergeant Kopylov rode to Biysk tobacco factory. Tobacco factory workers received hundreds of similar letters during the war. These smoky products helped to fight. The taste of shark is still remembered by many veterans of the Great Patriotic War. The most known smokers of the soldiers and officers of the Red Army were perhaps scouts, and for the life reasons. The cough of a smoker heard at the enemy trenches very often threatened imminent death. Dear friends, that's all for today. It was Tim and the Eastern Front channel. And what about you? Do you have such a habit? And do you ever try Makhorka? I wish you peace and health. See you.